How bad are things at the border? Well, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you why they're bad. It's a little different than you think. Also, rhetoric, it's important. And finally, animals. Please stay away from the animals. All that's coming up next on I'm Right. Our border situation is really, 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 really bad. And how do I know it's so bad? Well, the Biden administration isn't saying anything about it, but now we're getting leaked things out about it, and it looks bad. So it's one of those things where you've gotten a wee little peek into the crack of the door to see how dirty your kid's room is, and you can only see a little sliver. And in that little sliver, you see dirty candy bar wrappers and dirty socks. And so you know when the rest of that door opens, it's going to be really, really bad. That's what we have right now on the border. And the media is actually reporting on it. The media is reporting on something that makes the Biden administration look bad. It must be really, really, really bad. I mean, these are the headlines. Just recently, these are the headlines. 15,000 migrant children now held in U.S. custody amid border surge. 95 migrants found in human smuggling attempt at border state airport in Mexico. Biden admin weighs flying migrants who cross the southern border to northern states to be processed. Biden administration awards ICE $86 million to contract to secure hotel rooms for illegal families. How bad is it? It's so bad that, I can't believe I'm saying this, CNN is reporting on it.
As the situation at the U.S.-Mexico border gets worse, the media is being kept from it. Despite calls of transparency from the Biden administration, reporters and photographers have not been allowed inside the facilities where thousands of unaccompanied children are being kept, similar to jail-like conditions.
Okay. I'm going to pause there for a brief moment. I'm not going to get sidetracked, but we do have to talk about this similar to jail-like conditions thing. This is why when I talk to you about the system and the narrative, this is why you hear me rant so hard on these things. You remember, let's pause. Forget about the Biden thing. Forget about the current border surge. You remember, let's rewind back to the Donald Trump administration when we initially had that big surge of people at the border and then Trump stopped it. But during that surge, do you remember all the outcry from the media, Hollywood, every single Democrat congressman going down there for tearful pictures, down by these concentration camps? We're keeping them in jail. We're all this talk. Republicans jumped right on board. These facilities won't work. No, we can't separate families. This has to be nicer. Right away, we lost, right? We lost that. Because we gave in to the Democrat narrative. I don't care what you want to call detention facilities. If you enter a country illegally, you're going to be kept in something similar to a jail cell because any sane nation wouldn't just turn you loose on the public. No, you don't get to just barge into the greatest country in the history of the world and have a 5-star hotel room handed to you. And I'll be honest with you, these pictures we're going to show you that leaked out later on, about migrants being stuffed on top of each other. They're all wrapped in these steel blankets or metal-looking blankets. I'll show you it in a little while. That was the outcry today, right? Because it's happening under Biden. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And I know we're supposed to be outraged about that part of it. That was the one part of it. I looked at it and thought, oh, nice. Not because I want people sleeping on top of each other. I'm not inhumane. I want it that way because I want other migrants, potential migrants, to look at it that way. I want them to see those pictures and think, oh, I should do the safe thing and stay home. I shouldn't go to America. The message should be not, if you come here, I promise we'll be really nice and free healthcare and look how nice we are. The message should be, don't come. If you come, you're not going to enjoy it. In fact, we might take you away from your kid. Stay home. That's not inhumane. That sounds mean. That's the most humane thing in the world. That's trying to get people, stop. Don't overrun my country. Stop. Now, before I get into the rest of this, because look, we have another longtime reporter who's mad about the lack of access and all that other stuff. I do want to make sure I bring up something to you. Why is this happening? Well, two different reasons. One, the main reason they're coming is the Democrat rhetoric. But we've played it for you before. All the Democrats, Biden included, come on down, America's wide open, come on down. Don't be mean to immigrants. We have to be really nice to illegals. I'm going to be the nicest person to illegals ever. Just elect me, I'm going to be nice. Well, they're all watching it too. All the potential illegals are watching it too. The second he gets elected, here he comes. So yes, that's the actual reason these people are coming. But if you're in the Biden administration, why? Why are you letting this happen? Well, there's two different things. One, there's the nefarious communist element of they really do want to bring America to its knees. You understand that that's real, right? That's not just something we talk about. That's why we have so much leaked video out there and audio out there and books even written out there, articles about this person said this and this person said that. These people hate America. They do. They don't have a different view of America than you do. They hate it. You're trying to keep it afloat. They're trying to bring down the place. And what better way to bring down a country than by just a massive influx of poor people you can't control? It's the greatest way in the world. That's part of it. But there's another part of it too. Another part of it is actually kind of enjoyable if you think about it. It's the Joe Biden, college educated, only worked in the political world Democrat who's done some time in Harvard. And I worked in this newsroom for a while, and then I worked for Congressman Jerkwater, and then I worked over there in communications for this senator, some person who's lived in this academia media bubble their whole life. And they really did believe when they went down to their college campus and waved their Immigrant Lives Matter signs, they really did believe that that was the nice, humane way to live life. All this is, it's that guy doing the kid thing where they touch the stove for the first time. Welcome to the real world. In the real world, you can't open your border to everyone, especially when you share a border with poor nations. When you have poor nations right to your south, you can't open your border or you destroy what you have. And a sick part of me enjoys watching Democrats wake up and discover, oh, wow, we do have to house these people. And we shouldn't just announce to everyone that we're giving away everything to them, because that means we get more than we can handle, and then it's going to be a problem. And the Biden administration, they're telling you how big of a problem it is, how bad it really is, by the lack of access. And that's why the media is going after them. This is from a longtime photojournalist. Quote, I respectfully ask U.S. Customs and Border Protection to stop blocking media access to their border operations. I have photographed CBP under Bush, Obama, and Trump, but now zero access is granted to the media. These long lens images are taken from the Mexican side. Our reporters had to go to Mexico to find out what's happening. That's how close-lipped the Biden administration is about what's going on. It must be really, really bad. And like I've told you before, when I say it's Democrat rhetoric, which we're going to talk about their rhetoric here in a little bit, when I say it's Democrat rhetoric that brings these people, I don't say that just because I came up with it on my own. I lived in Tucson, close to the border for a long time. I'm now in Texas, fairly close to the border, at least a few hours away. I talk to Customs and Border Patrol agents all the time. I talk to ICE guys all the time. I talk to the local police all the time. I know what these problems are. And I'm telling you, they'll tell you to a man. The problem is when politicians go on TV and say, everybody's welcome, come on in. I'm going to be the nicest president to illegal immigrants there's ever been. These people are watching and they come. Even Martha Raddatz found that out.
I want to know, if you've got this great plan, why will you not let the media in? I understand privacy concerns, but will you let them in today or this week?
Martha, it is not only privacy concerns. Let me be clear, we're in the midst of a pandemic. We're talking about a crowded Border Patrol station where we are focused on operations. At the same time, and let me assure you that we are working on a plan to provide access so that people could see what is going on in a Border Patrol station.
Working on a plan to provide access, but she's not getting access. And why would they want access? The access shows the failure. And I'm telling you one thing, they're not going to enjoy more interviews like this when they're standing in front of these people and they're finding out, oh no, I'm here because of Joe Biden.
Would you have tried to do this when Donald Trump was president?
Definitely not. Definitely. We had the chance, you know, the same violence that is going on today was there last year. We used to watch the news, and I definitely won't do this.
So did you come here because Joe Biden was elected president?
Basically.
You heard it. And what'd you hear him talk about? The violence of last year. He was not talking about violence in his own country. He was talking about the horrible violence the Trump administration was doing to these immigrants. Where did he hear that? Of course, there was no violence, but where did he hear that? He heard that from the system. The American media all told him, concentration camps. Every Democrat politician, American movie stars, music stars, we have to stop this tragedy on the border. Half the Republican Party, you know what? Actually, the system, this is really inhumane. We should be nicer to immigrants. They're all watching. They're all down there in Honduras watching, going, wow, if we go up there now, we might die. This is like what the Nazis did. And they stay home. And when Joe Biden and the rest of the Democrats run on being the nicest guy in the world to illegal immigrants, well, they're watching that too. And they watch election night. When they see who wins, they say, honey, pack up your stuff. The gravy train is leaving now. As you can imagine, Donald Trump had something to say about it.
You have murderers, you have sex traffickers, you have a lot of very bad people coming into our country, and they're doing nothing about it. They're going to be released, or they're already being released. Yesterday they announced that they're just going to let them go into the country. No courts, no nothing. It's crazy. They're destroying our country. I must say, I never thought that Biden, and it's not Biden, it's other people that are, putting stuff in front of him.
You don't think it's him?
But I never thought that Biden in a million years would be worse. Nobody did. Would be far worse than Bernie Sanders. This is Bernie Sanders on steroids. This is what he's doing.
Where is he wrong? It has been an absolute disaster. And this part is just opinion. This is just an idea. It's just a theory, I guess I should call it. Joe Biden isn't running anything up there. Now, that part I think you're all nodding your head on, but Joe Biden has surrounded himself by activist radicals who would love this country to be completely wrecked. Joe Biden is a feeble, mentally and physically, a feeble old man who's not able or willing even to stand up to any of these people. He's handed over all authority to his staff, and that's why somehow Joe Biden, the former moderate, is governing way, way, way to the left of Barack freaking Obama. Because, well, they can do whatever they want. Here, Joe, just sign this here. Let me sign it for you, Joe. I'll hold your arm for you. There we go. There we go. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I'm right. Now, you know what makes me uncomfortable? That we still have veterans out there who are struggling with PTSD, with traumatic brain injury, with alcohol abuse, with drug abuse, and they're not reaching out for help. Veterans, the family of veterans, friends of veterans, listen to me. There are a ton of great organizations out there. I'm here to tell you, Warrior's Heart is the one. Call. They have a 24-hour phone number. They have a website. You have the resources available. And don't think you're bound to one program or one thing. They have inpatient. They have outpatient. They have a 40-acre facility. They have the things you need. The only disgrace, it's not what you're going through. I've been there. The only disgrace is not getting help. That's the only disgrace in it. Reach out and get help. 866-950-0636, 866-950-0636, or go to warriorsheart.com/thefirst. Get some help. You can do it. We'll be back. You know why we call people bad names when we go to war with them? Have you ever wondered that? Like, World War II is a great example. I know you've seen 1,000 World War II movies because you're an American, dang it. But you know why? Krauts. The Germans are Krauts. The Japanese are Japs, or worse. There's always something, always a little needle. Do you know why they do that? It's on purpose. You do it. Look, I've been to combat. You do it as a way to dehumanize who you're trying to kill. Because deep down, the way we are made is you really don't want to kill or hurt another human being. Now, your upbringing can ruin that, and various cultural influences can ruin that, but that's inside you. You don't want to hurt or kill somebody. So when it's time for your nation to go to war against someone else, you don't want to look at that German across in the trenches and say to yourself, that's a person like me, flesh and blood, mother, father, sister, brother, wife. You want to say to yourself, that's a Kraut. That's a Jap. You know why? It helps. It helps justify what you're about to do or try to do to that person. And they're doing the same thing to you. Rhetoric is really, 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 really important. I've been trying to scream this from the mountaintops for at least 3 or 4 years now. When the left says things like white supremacist and Nazi, you can defend yourself. I am not. If you want to, that's fine. You can get mad about it. That's fine. But I want you to remember something. We brought out a poll for you recently on this show that showed half the Democratic Party thinks white supremacism is the #1 issue in the United States of America. Why did they think that? When you've probably never met a white supremacist in your life. Neither have I. Why would they think that? Because rhetoric matters. That's why. And when they're calling you Nazi, when they're calling you white supremacist, I want you to understand this. They are dehumanizing you. They are making you less than a human being in their minds. Why would they do something like that? Well, let me ask you something. If I were to put a Nazi in front of you right now, and I mean card-carrying, Jew-hating Nazi, red armband and everything, what would your conscience allow you to do to that person? Anything, right? It's a Nazi. Line them up against the wall and shoot them in the back of the head if you feel like it. What can't you do to a Nazi? Rhetoric like this has real consequences.
It's not just a crisis of confidence. It's not just a crisis of competence. It's a crisis of truth. And at some point, you have to recognize that when people worship white supremacy, when people worship Trump, when people worship whatever kind of QAnon conspiracy they want, it is now a cult. It is a cult not radically dissimilar from al-Qaeda, at least from what we've seen so far as the belief system. And when you deal with cults, you can no longer defeat those people with logic. You just have to defeat them with laws, and you have to allow people to live in whatever kind of crazy fantasy world they want, as long as they're not harming other people.
Cult, white supremacy, Al-Qaeda. Let me ask you again. Let me frame it a different way now that you heard it. If I were to put Osama bin Laden, bring him back from the dead, dig him up from the ocean floor, even though he's fish poop now, what if I were to bring him back to life and put Osama bin Laden in front of you? What would your conscience allow you to do to that person? Rhetoric is really, really, really important. Let's not forget we had 4 years of this kind of garbage.
Trump is as destructive a person in this century as Hitler, Stalin, and Mao were in the last century. He may be responsible for many more million deaths than they were.
When he called immigrants animals, it was the same as Adolf Hitler used to call foreigners animals, Jews and gypsies. It's the same politics. It's neo-Nazism.
Terrorist Trump must be defeated, must be destroyed, must be devoured at the ballot box.
When you see what Donald Trump is doing, is that any different from what we describe as radicalizing people?
As the leader of a terrorist organization is viewed as a loser, as a not winner, it is harder for him to recruit.
What do you think those people, the people sitting at home listening to that, what do you think they think about you with your MAGA hat on? Watch yourself out there. All right, there's another place you have to watch yourself. it's online. You have to be smarter about how you protect yourself online. And the reason I'm being careful about this is this. I'm not judging you. I got burned. I opened up my email one day, and there I'm looking at, what? I'm looking at my home title right there on my phone with my signature on it and my wife's signature on it. I didn't even know what home title theft was until that moment. I thought it was still just a piece of paper. Your home title's sitting in the bank somewhere. No. It's online now. Your biggest financial vulnerability is probably not something you've ever even thought about. It's your home title. They will hack into it. They will forge your signature on it. They will take a loan out against it, and they will financially wipe you out or get you evicted from your home. That's happening too. Stop it before it starts. Go to HomeTitleLock.com. That's HomeTitleLock.com. Use the promo code RADIO. That gets you 30 free days of protection. We'll be back. You know they want your guns, right? No, they've always wanted them, but mostly Democrats talk about gun control in ways they just kind of have to nibble at the edges a little bit. Well, they're going to stretch out a little bit now, and they're going to see exactly how much power they have because they own all of America's cultural institutions at this point. And look, our new freshman senator, Raphael Warnock from Georgia, he knows it.
We need reasonable gun reform in our country. This shooter was able to kill all of these folks the same day he purchased a firearm. But right now, what is our legislature doing? They're busy under the Gold Dome here in Georgia, trying to prevent people from being able to vote the same day they register. I think that suggests a distortion in values. When you can buy a gun and create this much carnage and violence on the same day, but if you want to exercise your right to vote as an American citizen, the same legislature that should be focused on this is busy erecting barriers to that constitutional right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely the same thing. Joining me now to talk about that and other things is Antonia Okafor-Cover. She is the national spokesperson for Gun Owners of America. Antonia, do you think they're serious this time about guns? I think they do. I think they think they're in enough power to actually do something about it. What say you?
Yeah, unfortunately, they essentially think that they have a mandate because of President Biden, who thinks that he was voted on because of a mandate on the Second Amendment. Look, if you think that, then you weren't paying attention in 2020 when we had over 8 million new gun owners added to the roll of gun owners in America. So that is something that, essentially they're delusional when it comes down to that. And it was interesting in that clip that you just talked about with Warnock. Of course, he thinks that the fact of the matter is that we should be protecting constitutional right. Well, let me do one better than that. The Second Amendment is not only in the Constitution, it's not only a constitutional right, it's actually a human right, and it pre-exists the Constitution. So if anything, they should be protecting both, and that's what everybody should be doing. So I think that's where our actual loyalty should be lying, is our human right, not just our constitutional right.
Agreed all the way. So how do they go about it? I don't believe they're going to be able to pass legislation, but Joe Biden's already talked about going after gun manufacturers. They're clearly doing something with the ammo guys, because I'm paying 50 cents a round for 9mm at this point in time. What ways are they going after them?
Yeah, unfortunately, that primer not being here is making an issue when it comes to ammo. But yeah, it was really that run on ammunition and run on guns, even particularly again in 2020. It wasn't even essentially the fact that people realized that it came down to their own rights in order to protect themselves. It was because of the government's response to COVID, where it was governors of every state saying, for most states actually, saying that the Second Amendment wasn't essential, that gun ranges, gun training, even gun shops were not essential. And so people were making runs to the store because essentially they believed, and it was true, that they weren't going to be able to even exercise that right that they already have. So that's why a lot of what we're seeing now with a lot of the, high gun prices, high ammunition prices, comes down to the fact that a lot of people didn't realize how important that right, and honestly, how little the government actually protects our rights on the state level, but also on the federal level as well. And we're seeing that with the passing of H.R. 8, the passing of H.R. 1446, that is now going to the Senate. We had 8 Republicans vote in favor of that. I mean, that's what we're seeing right now is government over and over again, not only not protecting our right, but straight up just infringing on our rights in general.
Why do Americans love guns? And look, I love it. Obviously, I love it. It fits right in with me. But even in COVID, I mean, it wasn't just the Antifa BLM riots that had people flocking to the gun stores. Coronavirus had people flocking to gun stores, which I thought was the greatest thing ever. But why? Why is that in our mentality as Americans?
You know, obviously, I love America. I love Texas, where I'm from. I'm a native Texan. And we tout a lot about freedom and the Second Amendment here as well. But really, again, it comes back to the fact that it's a human right. And I think, unfortunately, I think people use the narrative that it's an American thing, that it's unique to America, that we're obsessed with guns. Look, I'm proud of our gun culture. I think it's an important culture to have. It's a culture of defense, of protection, and defending other people. And I think Americans in history have been shown time and time again that we are defenders not only of our citizens here, but of other people in other countries as well. But I think it also goes to show just the American spirit of we were founded upon Judeo-Christian values that emphasize life and the protection of life in general. And so I think that's why it's become a uniquely American and beautiful culture that we hold on to and that we want to preserve and also spread to other countries. I mean, what's wrong with spreading freedom, right?
Understanding that you may not have your choice right now of weapon, but you have probably a bunch of first-time gun buyers watching the show, or at least potential gun buyers watching the show. What are you telling somebody to look at just for personal defense? Man, woman, what are you telling them to look at now? I get, like I said, though, that a lot of the good stuff will be picked over.
I would tell them, go get trained. Things are opening up finally, so there are a lot of gun ranges that are back completely 100% capacity. Group classes, individual classes is always the best way to go about things, but go get trained. You don't need the government to tell you how many hours you need in order to be able to defend yourself and those that you care about in the proper way. And particularly in areas of if you're actually using it is in a self-defense scenario where you need to be in a situation that's not just about staying in one place and shooting at a paper target. That's not real life. And so go get trained. That's the best thing that I can tell you to go do. And it helps gun owners in general is to know that we are personally responsible for our own safety, but we are also we take it very seriously when it comes down to training with a tool that can be used to defend our lives and other lives as well.
Antonia Okafor-Cover, thank you so much, ma'am. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Now, do you dip tobacco? Do you have a friend or family member who dips tobacco or smoking? Jake's Mint Chew can actually help you quit in a healthy way. When I say help you quit, I don't mean throwing a patch on your arm, giving you more nicotine in gum form. It's nicotine-free. It's tobacco-free. It's even sugar-free. So if you have a friend or family member who wants to quit, do me a favor. I've been there. I dipped for years. Don't point a finger at them. It doesn't work. Don't scold them about how unhealthy it is. It doesn't work. Give them a solution. Give them a way out. Jake's Mint Chew has 11 different long cut flavors, 4 different flavors of the CBD pouches. You trying to quit smoking? Bring a little box of the CBD pouches to work. Throw one in your lip. Trust me, it takes the edge off. Go to jakesmintchew.com. That's jakesmintchew.com. And when you use the promo code Jesse, that's Jesse, you get 20% off. We'll be back. Well, as I told you before, I don't care for old people falling down. Even when it's Joe Biden. Here's the video of Joe Biden falling up the stairs several times. Even when it's someone I despise, still an old person. I didn't even like it when Hillary was eating it down the stairs. I know you're going to be surprised because everyone thinks I'm a cold-hearted jerk, but the spin is what gets me. We have a quote from the White House. So as you know, it's pretty windy outside. It's very windy. I almost fell coming up the stairs by myself. Joining me now to talk about that is Curtis Houck, managing editor with the Media Research Center. Curtis, who's going to believe that it was the wind? It was the wind. We're supposed to believe stuff like that?
Yeah, I guess we're supposed to, Jesse. That was from Karine Jean-Pierre, former MSNBC contributor and MoveOn.org. And because, she's a friend of these networks, they're going to take it lying down. They're just going to take it as is because, what gets me, Jesse, is if that's the case, then why did Joe Biden come back from Georgia? Why was he allowed to come back? Because I guess if it's so dangerous, why didn't they just have him camp out in like South Carolina or Georgia or North Carolina or Virginia?
Yeah, Curtis, explain to people, because look, this is what you guys do at the Media Research Center. You do it so well. Explain to people this crossover between Democrat politicians in media. People do not understand. It's just this never-ending back and forth pipeline where you'll go right from Senator Jerkwater's office to MSNBC, and then you're working for the president, and then when he gets voted, you move right back onto CNN, and it just never stops. And that's why, these people are Democrats.
Yeah, it's what we call the revolving door. John Kirby, he was at the State Department with Jen Psaki, and then they were both at CNN. And now Jen Psaki is the White House press secretary, and John Kirby is the press secretary at the Defense Department. Ned Price would go on CNN and MSNBC, then he hatched onto MSNBC, now he's at the State Department. It's just this very convenient revolving door here where everybody's friends and gets all mushy together. And really, that's the swamp in a nutshell. I think that's one of the best examples of the swamp. But the difference is we found 50 minutes on MSNBC and CNN where they spent back in June on when Donald Trump walked slowly down a ramp at West Point and used two hands to drink with a water glass. So 50 minutes for that, whereas I believe it was less than half of that in a day for Biden falling up the stairs. And they took the Biden administration's explanation as fact. They didn't try to say, why is Joe Biden afraid of stairs? Do we have to invoke the 25th Amendment? All the kinds of things that we saw with Donald Trump aren't being asked about Joe Biden. And that's the point. We're not really more about laughing about Joe Biden. We're just asking for consistency here.
Curtis, something weird is happening. And I'm going to play this clip for you. Something weird is happening right now with the media and Joe Biden. Actually, on that point, play it.
The pressure is tremendous. And to do that 180 without really any preparation, he owns this now. He owns it.
And Laura, he really does. And should they have been more aware? They really seem tone deaf to the politics of this as well.
There's such a big influx, and I was just talking to local advocates here in El Paso yesterday, and they were saying that they feel as though beyond the rollback of the Remain in Mexico, which they felt as though went well, according to the advocates and activists, beyond that, they feel as though the White House doesn't have a plan in terms of how to address not just the children, but also the adults and the families that are coming over here.
Curtis, the media just planning this whole thing in Joe Biden's lap. Did I wake up? Am I in a dream right now? Why is the media turning on Joe Biden?
Yeah, this is one issue, Jesse, where it's been absolutely stunning. My main beat here at Newsbusters, in addition to being editors, watching the White House press briefings. And we've been seeing this for a couple of weeks now, where on immigration, it's not just Peter Doocy or Kristen Fisher from Fox News or Emerald Robinson from Newsmax that are asking these questions. It's going beyond that to reporters from NBC News and Reuters and AP were in on it today. Peter Doocy had this amazing question that I just read here. What is Biden's concern about this being a super spreader event where you've got 400 kids stuffed into a pod built for 260? And that's just one question, and he's not the only one asking these questions. They're pointing out with the Axios photos that Henry Cuellar leaked to them, showing what's going on inside these facilities and the kids crammed in there, Biden cages. The media are correctly pointing out that Biden still won't, in the administration, won't call this a crisis, that they still call it a challenge. You saw in that clip there, they're just burying, destroying, wrecking the Biden administration. And it's truly stunning. That's how you know it's really bad, Jesse, when they cannot deny basic reality and that they're reporting on the facts as they are. And very few people, you've got a few people at CNN, Jacob Soboroff at NBC, that are still covering for Biden. But when the ranks have really thinned, it's really bad. So that, yeah, I mean, it's been stunning to see, but we'll see how long it continues.
Curtis, why did the Biden administration blow this so badly? I mean, I have my own theories. I just have a theory that, one, half these people are full-blown communists who would love to destroy the country with unending illegal immigration. And two, the other half are just a bunch of academics who don't realize that every immigrant life matters crap sounds nice on the campaign trail, but in real life you have to enforce border protection.
I actually would agree with both of those, actually, Jesse. I think the first point, the President Trump mentioned that today, and he mentioned it in a statement last night. These Democrats are trying to destroy the country. They knew exactly what this was going to happen with the borders. It's really been memed at this point with Agatha from WandaVision with the wink emoji, with them saying, don't come now, come later. So people are doing that now. They're saying kids won't be turned away, so they're going to send their kids in. But yeah, at the same time, I think that there are some people who genuinely are that stupid, and I'll just call it for what it is. They're just stupid. These academics and people in Washington, they get so high and mighty about it that they don't think about it. They realize that their rhetoric really is causing people to do it. And I'll point out real quick in the ABC, Martha Raddatz interviewed someone from Brazil coming across the border, and she asked, was Biden's becoming president the reason why you came? And he said, quote, basically. And then he asked, would you have done this if Donald Trump had won? And he said, absolutely not.
Curtis, we have new racism in America. I don't know if you've heard about this. Quote, how racism and sexism intertwine to torment Asian women. Curtis, you're welcome to disagree with me on this. We didn't talk about this beforehand, but I don't know why everybody's shocked about this. Ethnic tension, racial tension, religious tension is the history of the world. I mean, we had problems, and we still have them, with black people assaulting Jews in New York City. There are problems with black people and Asians right now in the United States of America. This isn't an America is racist problem. This is cultural differences that manifest themselves when cultures are pressed right up against each other. I don't understand why everything has to turn into America sucks.
Right, and I think that's what's important to point out is this is why, we're having these problems, because America is different. You don't see this happen in other countries. They say, oh, why don't you see this happening in other countries? Or why don't you see there's no gun violence in other countries? That's a similar issue. Well, it's because we're America, damn it. Like, that's the whole point. We're supposed to be this melting pot of people where everybody came from somewhere else for the most part, except, Native Americans. Everybody else came from somewhere else, at some point. So, yeah, you're going to have this when all these different cultures come together and people cohabitate, and try to coexist with each other. There's going to be tensions. But, this is an example more broadly of where the media just don't follow the facts here. The family of the gunman says this is what's happened. The roommate of the gunman at the rehab facility says this is what happened, his sex addiction. And then that's, instead of letting the facts go where they may, and it may be a hate crime, but it may not be. The media are so, it's sick, but they have almost a rooting interest in the outcome of it being racist because they have such a disdain for America because they're too busy listening to Ibrahim Kendi and Nicole Hannah-Jones, who runs the New York Times. And Kendi, I should add, is now basically running the Boston Globe, and Robin DiAngelo, who gets tens of thousands of dollars to tell people how much they suck. The Root said whiteness is a pandemic in this country. That's really where our news media are. And so the question then is obviously, so if whiteness is and white people are a pandemic, how would you solve that? I thought getting rid of a pandemic means getting rid of a virus. And if a certain race of people are the virus, interesting.
Do you think people are starting to wake up to the cultural Marxists we have in this country, Curtis? And I don't mean watching the news and thinking, oh, I don't like that, that's unappealing. Do you think people are understanding how insidious these people really are?
I think so. I think, you see today, Meghan McCain apologized for not sounding like Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg, and she offered this tweet saying Donald Trump's to blame for attacks on Asians. Like, what? Where we can't criticize the Chinese government anymore for running concentration camps and taking over Hong Kong, you know, in their military and their government covering up the virus. Even if you don't think it came from a lab, they covered up the fact that the virus was spreading in Wuhan. But apparently you can't do that now because that means you want Asians to be attacked and beaten up on the streets. You know, people are seeing that and they're like, what in the world? So between that and the Alexi McCammon story, yes, she's a leftist, but I think that kind of drove it into the mainstream where, you know, they were fighting, the left was fighting amongst themselves. Those two issues, I think you put them together and you see that, yeah, some people are waking up, you know, way too late, I would argue, but, you know, better late than never.
Curtis Houck, everybody. Thank you, brother.
Anytime, Jesse.
Go Buckeyes. All right. He went to Penn State. I have to do that to him. We'll be back. A man has been arrested in San Diego for child endangerment. I want you to watch this little video of a man walking into the elephant enclosure with his toddler.
Oh. Damn. Oh.
We've had this talk on the show before. We're going to have it again. I grew up around wild animals. Been around the world and seen some wild animals. I understand you've seen a lot of Disney movies where the little deer's crying and look at the lions. They get along so well with the gazelles. They go and play together. They probably talk. Wild animals are dangerous. Stay away from wild animals. Why do I always have to have this conversation on this show? All right. Not going to get fired up about it. I'll see you tomorrow.